All right, guys, what is up? What is up? Today's lecture, the last lecture in public policy, the last lecture ever before the test, before the big AP test, is Makers of Foreign Policy. And a lot of this stuff you guys already know, so we're going to go through this quick. Feel free to pause if you need to write down these notes. I will let you know what to write. Okay, so if you don't know this, write this down. Key foreign policy makers. We know that foreign policy is shared between what? Between the president and Congress, because we have we have a system of checks and balances in our United States government. We know that. So, who declares war? Congress. Congress declares war. However, in the Constitution, Article 2, the president is the commander in chief. So, treaties. In regards to treaties, president's going to make these treaties, but who's going to ratify them? The Senate. Senate ratifies. And same thing with appointments. So the president can appoint particular people. However, the Senate must approve them. So this is an awesome example of checks and balances at work within the United States government. So despite these shared responsibilities, the president is primarily responsible for foreign policy. This court case, United States versus Curtis Wright, is going to argue that, and has an extensive support within the executive branch. So there are going to be a lot of systems within the executive branch, within that bureaucracy, for foreign policy. So the president's going to really be at the head of foreign policy, despite the fact that Congress will ratify treaties. Now, question for you. What acts like a treaty, but is not a treaty? I guess it doesn't act like a treaty 100%, but executive agreement is going to in some way act like a treaty, but it does not need congressional approval. The president can just do that himself. So executive agreements, I think we've talked about those in the past. They're not quite as binding as treaties are, but they are pretty powerful. All right, so a little bit more about foreign policy. So Secretary of State is definitely going to have a big role. John Kerry is our current Secretary of State. So this cabinet official is responsible for foreign affairs. Bingo, that's his name of the game. Other cabinet officials are responsible. So since foreign policy affects domestic policy as well within the United States, other cabinet officials like the Secretary of Commerce, Secretary of Treasury, Defense, Agriculture, so on and so forth, are going to have input as well. The National Security Council is made up of some of these other cabinet officials. So these members include the Vice President, Secretary of State, Defense, CIA Head, National Security Advisor. They're going to coordinate the policy that affects national security. Okay, so we know that National Security Council. Now the National Security Advisor, something different, has emerged as a key player who sometimes has more influence than the Secretary of State. Crazy. Henry Kissinger. You guys should have studied him in your U.S. classes. He's going to be Nixon's NSA, if you will, the National Security Advisor. However, he will be Secretary of State later on. However, he or she might be closer to the president, office in the White House, and his loyalties are not divided between the president and the cabinet department. Remember, that's perhaps a downfall between cabinet secretaries, is that they have split loyalties between the president and then their department. So that's not the case with the National Security Advisor. So this is a good example. You guys may have seen this picture before. Famous picture. Obama and his National Security Council are looking at the images of Osama bin Laden getting tracked down and getting killed. All right, so another important official, Department of Homeland Security, or organization to coordinate anti-terrorism efforts. This is going to be the 15th department that we have. It's the most recent department under George W. Bush. State Department and its Foreign Service, responsible for day-to-day management of foreign policy, so that's who's responsible for that. The United States Information Agency, Propaganda Agency. You can see, holy smokes, a lot of agencies at work here. Director of National Intelligence, another agency, new position, has responsibilities for overseeing all 15 intelligence agencies. Holy smokes, look at all this stuff. Craziness. I would say, I forgot to tell you this. I would say write these down and write more or less just use your own discernment for what to write here. I would definitely have these 3 points there. All right. So CIA is another agency that gets involved. So CIA is similar to the FBI. Now, I'm not sure if you guys know this, but the FBI is more of a national, national, not regulatory agency, but national police in the sense that they are within the United States. So they work on a local level or within the nation. CIA is more of like an agency or intelligence agency that is all over the world. So FBI within the United States, CIA around the world. So what are they going to do? I would say use your discernment here what to write, but they're going to gather and evaluate intelligence. So this is like spies. Spies are at work with the CIA. So they're created in the late 40s to monitor the evil commies, to monitor the Soviets. They're going to have some covert operations. So that is that they're going to, for example, they're going to help overthrow governments in Iran, Guatemala. CIA was also responsible for assassinating Ngo Dinh Diem in South Vietnam. Some people say that the CIA had a covert operation on JFK. Not sure if I believe that, but many people will claim that. So this is going to lead for sure to some having concern about government secrecy in a democracy. Can this actually exist? Both these exist. Government secrecy in a democracy that's supposed to be very transparent with the public. So I don't know. Something to think about. This concern has led to a creation of intelligence oversight committees. So the House and the Senate is going to make sure that the CIA is doing what it needs to do. Terrorist attacks also are going to call for a stronger CIA. The Obama administration is going to release a little bit of controversy going on with the Bush administration with waterboarding, with CIA torture. Is that okay? Is it not okay? Obama will release some memos regarding that. All right, the NSA. So this agency is going to use huge cryptologic and surveillance organization. Guess what? People know what you're doing. People know what you're doing. They have the ability to know what you're doing. The government has the ability to know what you're doing. Why? Or not why, but how? That's through the NSA. All right, so influences on foreign policy, public opinion for sure, absolutely. The public opinion has a huge role. Now, most people are going to be unaware of foreign policy. They have no idea what's going on. Many people will not even be able to point to Iraq or Afghanistan on a map. Most people will not. Don't be one of those people. So there are, of course, a lot of people though that are very attentive and aware and interested in foreign policy and what's going on around the world within the United States. You have think tank researchers also. They're going to influence foreign policy in their own way. All right, interest groups. So think tanks, we've learned about think tanks, such as RAND, the Council on Foreign Affairs. You're going to see a lot of lobbyists come into play, especially for Israel. Now, America is pro-Israel, and there's going to be PACs out there that are going to ensure that America stays pro-Israel. I forgot to tell you again, I would say definitely write this stuff down. This stuff's probably not as important. Maybe just put interest groups. You don't need all these examples. C, foreign nation lobbyists. Did you know that foreign nations have lobbyists in D.C.? Many nations hire lobbyists to represent their interests in Washington, D.C. This issue led people like Ross Perot. Remember good old Ross Perot? He ran for president. He was a third-party candidate in 1992 to blast the government for listening to lobbyists of foreign nations who obviously do not have the best interests of the U.S. in mind. This gets messy. Government is messy. All right, political parties, of course, are going to play a big role. Now, generally, foreign policy is an area of bipartisanship in America. Usually, both parties will agree on foreign policy. 9/11 is a great example. After we were attacked by Al-Qaeda, both sides are going to agree that we need to go to war. Now, Bush is going to call for that, but both sides are going to agree initially, and then after a little while, Democrats are going to say, wait a second, weapons of mass destruction? Yeah, I don't know about that. But so for the most part, the United States will be united and not torn apart by 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 different parties. This leads to the quote, politics ends at the water's edge. So politics ends within the United States. Past that, usually we can agree together. All right, so here's some wars. Most of these wars we agreed with. Both parties agreed with, Republicans and Democrats. All right, Congress. So key congressional checks on the president. Congress has the power of the purse. So they're the ones that get to fund it. So if Congress does not want to be in a particular war, bam, stop funding it. Well, there can be no war now if there's no money. A war declaration, of course, Congress has the power to declare war, ratification of treaties, that's the Senate, approval of appointees, Senate, same thing. Key role, write this stuff down if you don't know it. Key role of Senate Foreign Relations Committee for oversight of foreign affairs. Lately, we're going to see the president have a huge role within the United States foreign policy. He's the commander-in-chief, right? So that's going to be a reason for that. All right, so this says, however, there have been some notable instances of Congress asserting its authority in foreign affairs. So these are just some examples. Maybe put one or two of these examples down. The Senate will block the Treaty of Versailles. So this is Congress saying, no, President, we're not doing that. Neutrality Act, you guys know these in World War II. This is where Congress is going to say, look, this is what we're doing. War Powers Act, that's a big one. That's going to be on the test for sure. One of those big concepts you got to know for the test, one I'm not going to review right now because you guys should already know it. Congress will refuse to commit troops after North Vietnam is going to invade South Vietnam, and North Vietnam will win. Of course, we will see a little bit of opposition in the Gulf War. The Senate will reject this nuclear comprehensive test ban in the late 90s. Going through some of these, you don't need to put these down, but Bush is going to be criticized, especially by 2006, by 2007, for sure. All right, so that's it for today. I know I went kind of quick, but this stuff we've gone over a lot of it already. These first couple slides are very important. All right, guys, thanks for watching. I will stamp your notes next class, and I'll see you later.